tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto sukedoye uladi samyao samputoshe.
Namo saranto suchedoye arahati samyao sambuddhoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄大家，阿弥陀佛, Venerable Master, Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture today. My name is Heng. Today is Sunday, the 18th of August, here in the Gold Coast of Queensland, and we are preparing to continue our investigation of the chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra known as Entering the Dharma Realm or Merging with the Realm of Reality, Rufajepi, chapter 39 of the Avatamsaka Sutra. So if that's what you came to participate in, you are in the right place. As they say back in New Hampshire, don't you move a dad burned inch, you're right where you belong. Okay, we are going to proceed with our protocols for getting our sutra lecture going. Let me share my screen. Here we are. Now, today, I want to mention, today is also ullambana, which is our Buddhist holiday. Everybody say together, ullambana, ullambana. Well done, yeah. And not only ullambana, but mahamadgayana. Are you ready? Maha, everybody, maha, madgal, yayana. Mahamadgayana. Yeah, the Chinese don't like words that long, so they shortened it to Mulian. Mulian. In the Pali, he's known as Mogalan. So, Mahamadgalyayana, 7-syllable name. Great Madgalyayana. Maha is great. So, he's our hero. We're going to hear about him today. So, today we have two parts of the program. One is our investigation into Sudana's pilgrimage that's ongoing, and the big topic is the bodhi resolve. He is learning about that from an expert whose name is Bhikshu Ocean Cloud. Oceanic clouds, oceans of clouds, ocean cloud. Hayun Bhikshu. And he's instructing our hero in what it means to make the bodhi resolve. How does that work? This putishin, which is said to be the sine qua non. You can't have it without, you can't do without it. Part of the Bodhisattva path. So that's our topic of our whole sutra, and that's what we're going to learn. On your screen, you're looking at Earth Treasury Bodhisattva. That's a Korean image of Dizampusa. And he's got the wish-fulfilling pearl right there in his hand, and he's got his 6-ringed pewter staff in his other hand. Dizampusa. Earth Store Bodhisattva is connected to Mahamadgayana. People say that they're one and the same. That's a question that scholars can investigate. Meanwhile, we are going to continue with our protocols here. Let's get this going. First thing we want to do is, or the next thing we want to do, is invoke spiritual presence to invite the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the Flower Garland Assembly, the gods and the dragons and the eightfold pantheon of spiritual Dharma protectors. We invite them all to draw near to enjoy and to bless our assembly today. Here we go. Namo sa, one more time. Namo Ready. And we want to acknowledge country and say that not the Pomo people, but the Kombumerri people of the Ugambi language region. We honor them and acknowledge them as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where our monastery is located here. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and also to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded worldwide, and that's a lot of folks. 我们恭敬地承认与冈北语族的贡布马里人，他们是我们寺院所在地的传统实施者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬。Okay, bell song. Bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他能厚德。So it is, and that's all for. Let's see here. Gonna up. Okay, we have to close that in order to do what has to be done there. Okay, as they say in India, to do the needful. Here we are. Okay, there we go. Now, we are here today. Close you, thank you. And a little bit of, now I close that. Computer hygiene, I call it. Here we are. All right there. Last week, we were halfway through Ocean Cloud Bhikshu's interrogation of, sounds too hard, his conversation with Master Sudana, our young man, our young pilgrim. What he said was, have you made the bodhi resolve? Have you fa? Niyo yo fa putishin? And he said, yes, I have. So immediately our teacher, this teacher number 3 out of 53 coming ahead. Excuse me, cough right into the microphone, please. He said, good for you. Here's what you need if you want to make the bodhi resolve. Bodhi resolve, this thing, the bodhicitta they call it, putishin, it's a concept that's central to the Mahayana tradition, our school. If you're from the Buddhist world of Sri Lankan Buddhism, we had a family here yesterday, lovely mom who spoke only Sinhalese, and her daughter who was there to translate for her 2 kids and the husband. They got a good look at Gold Coast Dharma Realm and hope they return. They would not have, they could be lifelong Buddhists in the Sri Lankan tradition. They would never have heard of the Putishin, Bodhi Resolve. Same for Thailand. Same for other Buddhist, Theravada Buddhist worlds. In the Tibetan tradition, oh my goodness, they talk about bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the most important thing. They really see it the way we do. In the Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese tradition, the Bodhi Shin, Bodhi mind, Bodhi resolve, central, totally essential. Because why? After you make the Bodhi resolve, everything is different. All your priorities shift. Things that weren't important before are now important. things that were important before now fade away. They're just not important. So, got your interest? Are you interested in what this is? So what does he say? Let's just read down to the bottom here, and to refresh, because we were lecturing halfway through last week. So let's start here at the top. Okay, you can read it with me. Let's read it all together. Here we go. 时海云比丘告善财言善男子如依法阿耨多罗三藐三菩提心也 He says, not fao, but ye, same question. Ready? Here we go. 时善财 I'm sorry, my mistake. 善财言为我以先发阿耨多罗三藐三菩提心 Okay, continue here. 海云言善男子若诸众生不种善根则不能发阿耨多罗三藐三菩提心 Okay, continue, we're right here. 要得普门善根光明具真实道三昧智光出生种种广大福海长白净法无有懈息善心 I'm sorry, my mistake again. 是善知识不生疲厌不顾生命无所障疾等心如地无有高下心常慈悯一切众生语助有趣转念不舍恒要观察如来境界如是乃能发菩提心 Okay, those are his instructions. This is how you do it, he said. This is the essential part. This is the key. All right. Are we ready? We're going to read it together, and you have to make it sound good, to put it together, we have to observe commas, white spaces, ends of sentences, periods, places to breathe. All that punctuation is there to show us how to read together, so it sounds really good. We read it in unison. And I might add, anybody who is watching from the Berkeley Monastery, anybody who is watching at home, let's read it together. Why not? Let the Avatamsaka Sutra permeate your abode, your workplace, your car, wherever you're listening. Just read it aloud. Why not? It's good for you. Good for the world. Here we go. At that time, the Bhikshu Ocean Cloud asked Sudana, Good man, have you already expressed the resolve for Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? Breathe, pause, here we go. Sudana replied, Yes, comma, I have expressed the resolve for Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Pause, inhale. Ocean Cloud said, Good man, if beings have not planted good roots, comma, they cannot express the resolve for Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, period. You must attain the radiance that comes from good roots cultivated through the universal door. You must be replete with Samadhi's wisdom light of the true path, comma, take a breath. Create many vast and great oceans of blessings and nurture pristine and pure dharmas without laziness or resting, period, take a breath. You must serve good advisors without fee or satiation. You must disregard the well-being of your body and life, and you must not conceal or hoard possessions. Your mind must be flat like the ground, without highs or lows, period. You take a breath. Your nature must always feel empathy and pity for beings. With concentration and mindfulness, you must never forsake beings in the destinies of existence, period. Take a breath. You must constantly delight in contemplating the thus come one states. This is how you can express the bodhi resolve. Okay, one essential that I didn't mention in my quick tutorial of how we can recite in unison is you recite as much with your ears as you do with your mouth. That is to say, to tune in to the voices around you. And when you do that, it's astonishing how in a couple sentences, a room full of people recite with a single voice. Really true. Okay, so these are the instructions, and last week what we discovered was this is high code. This is high Buddhist jargon, deep Buddhist jargon, strong Buddhist jargon. That is to say, code language. For example, if you haven't planted good roots, you can't express the resolve. Does that mean I have to be a gardener? Yeah, it does, metaphorically speaking. The garden is your mind, and we have to, is my mind. And you have to get your hands dirty. You have to get topsoil under your fingernails of yourself as the mind ground gardener. Xindi, guanli zhe, right? 种心地的这个农夫，佛法的农夫。The Buddha Dharma gardener. We're mixing our metaphors left and right? So you have to get in there and break up the soil and take a rake and break down the big clods of earth into small clods of earth and add amendments. So, you get the idea. So, yes, you do. That's how you plant good roots. And those good roots we translated last week as wholesome qualities. It's not literal good roots, and it's not, you're not working with anything, you're not getting dirty in your mind. It's metaphor. So, however, the reason for the metaphor is because it really kind of feels like that sometimes. You have to recognize what are the big clods of dirt in the mind are bad habits, ways of seeing the world that don't really function. But you might have heard them from a mentor who was not necessarily a wholesome person, somebody who introduced you to bad habits. In the name of a good time, maybe, we're going to have a good time, and in the process you wound up creating bad karma. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I can think back to things that I would do differently if I could do them again. Lord have mercy, Buddha have mercy. So those are, that's the big clouds of dirt in the mind, the mind ground, the ground of the mind. So when you translate it that way, it sort of makes more sense. If beings hadn't planted good roots, they can't express the result. So if you don't have goodness in your heart, you're never going to make the bodhi resolve. Okay? That work? People find that acceptable? Here's our, last week we had this little document. So let me shrink it a bit. There we go. Ocean Cloud says, good man, good woman, if you haven't planted good roots. You need a good character. You need wholesome qualities in your personality if you're going to want to make the bodhi resolve. If you're a mean SOB, if you're really selfish, you're going to have a harder time walking the bodhisattva path. Not to say you can't, for sure. What about those Buddhists who never heard of it? Are they not good? No, we're talking, this is the heartbeat of the Mahayana school. That's what this text is about. So if that floats your boat, you're in the right place. So here we go. Number 2, look at the code. You have to obtain the radiance that comes from good roots cultivated through the universal door. We marveled at this one. This is so much code language here. We have to decode it. Captain Midnight decoder ring. So you need to get light from good roots through a door. No, makes no sense. The light from goodness in your mind, goodness that I do when my mind is free from selfishness. The universal door we identified is the mind. That's where the work is done. So if I can get rid of thinking that I'm the only important person in the center of the world and everything in the world is here to serve me, the energy and the goodness that's released when somebody gets beyond that view is light. Your world suddenly is not narrow and small and dark and fearful. Just everything is out to get you. Everything, if your entire political life is based on grievance, people were bad to me, they weren't fair to me, they hurt me, they're out to get me. How tiny and dark is that worldview? So drop that and suddenly, wow, we're in this together. And benefits to me are benefits to all. Benefits to all help me. That's suddenly, it's like, wow. What do they say in Chinese? 万里青天万里无云, right? For 10,000 miles, there's not a cloud in the sky. So light is released, energy. So that now, when we decode it that way, it makes sense. Okay, here's more Buddhist code, replete with samadhi's wisdom light of the true path. Oh boy. We spent some time with this last week. 3 things: true path, whatever that is; samadhi, whatever that is; wisdom light. They're related. Ocean Cloud Bhikshu says, you want to make the bodhi resolve? You have to meditate until your mind is free from the darkness of ignorance. When is that? Get going. Start meditating. Find out. It's different. It's not a clock. It's not a calendar. It's when I let go of the things that I cling to that block the light of my mind. Another one, many vast and great oceans of blessings you need to create. Great oceans of blessings. Jerry Lee Lewis, great balls of fire, right? Yeah, great oceans of blessings. Blessings, we went into this in depth. 令他人欢喜, we said, making other people happy is where blessings come from, according to our teacher. And so, great oceans of doing that, great oceans of making people happy. Why oceans? Because big. Oceans is another physical referent that occurs in the sutras a lot. Because when this was spoken 2,500 years ago, people only had nature as their referent. They probably hadn't read a book, perhaps, and certainly not one with illustrations. Much less had they seen a video, much less had they, did their computers have Photoshop. They didn't have computers. Photoshop was a dream to come 2.5 millennia later. So the Buddha, to communicate images that he wanted to give them, used the biggest things in nature: oceans, clouds, mountains, Mount Sumeru, right? So he communicated size, great amounts of unselfish, benefiting others, making others happy. Okay, I think that's as far as we got last week. Nurture pristine and pure dharmas without laziness or resting. A pristine dharma is not measured in terms of 99 and 44/100% pure, like ivory soap. No, it's measured in how much self is involved in the cultivation of this particular practice. So to be pristine is you do it for the goodness that it creates, not for the reputation that you get of being a real benefactor or a big cultivator. Not. That would be a non-pristine dharma, in fact, a polluted dharma. So pristine dharmas come from doing goodness for its own sake. Serve good advisors without fatigue or satiation. Okay, implied in this one, this is really key for the bodhi resolve, and the implication is your relationship with a teacher. How have you, where do you go to learn Buddhism? Where do you go to learn how to cultivate? Who do you follow? Who do you imitate? That's the question. And I did a soliloquy last week about Mr. Don Sharp, a man who impressed me deeply in my high school years. He was the assistant principal and had been a Marine and was dressed impeccably, and etc. I told the story last week. So there's an example of a mentor. Who do you have in your life who influenced you almost when you weren't even watching? There are people in our lives who we're kind of aware of. They are on our radar so that we know how they would respond to your behavior without even asking. You would know if you were making them happy or the opposite. There are people who say they see Master Shenhua in dreams. Oh, I had a dream of Shifu last week, let's say, or last night or something. And there are people who kind of trade on that even. Is it true or not? Well, dreams are hard to prove. You can't really say, you can't verify, the third person can't verify your dream, or the second person. Dreams are like thoughts in the mind, and they come at night when you're sleeping. So how ephemeral. I don't have dreams of Master Hua. I hear him in my ear. And I'm not a very visual person. I'm a big audio person. And I can hear Shifu scolding me just all the time. And it's often that way. It's often, Guozhan, And I know how Shifu would react when I mess up. And I also know how he would react when I don't mess up, when I do something that is worthy of recognition. So my relationship with my teacher comes through sound in my ear. And I was with him for 18 years, and I know without a second thought when I would be taught. So who do you have? Who in your life fills that role? Somebody who you want to be in their good graces. You want their praise. You want their approval. And you know the standards. That's a good advisor. Somebody who makes me a better person. Somebody who makes you a better person. Who applies their life standards, and you admire living up to them, to those standards. That's a Shanzhishu, Kalyana Mitra. Somebody who you just somehow your relationship with that person gives your life more value. Now we're looking positive. What about a Kalyana Mitra, a Shanzhishu, a good and wise friend, who gives you shelter when things go wrong, when things break down? Who is that? That can also be a good and wise advisor. Guanyin Bodhisattva, for example. Guanyin Bodhisattva is replete in one incarnation, has 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes and 1,000 ears, and is listening for people to say, Namo Guanyin Bodhisattva, Namo Guanxin Pusa, Joku Jonan. And when you say that, Guanyin is there. That's a good advisor. It's not somebody who is praising you or holding you to a higher standard and improve your life. It's somebody who is there when things go wrong, when things break apart. She can give you shelter from the storm. So, in other words, Ha Yun Bicho, the monk, our teacher here, is telling Sudana that in order to make the bodhi resolve, you need this relationship. You need to you can't do it yourself. That's key. The bodhi resolve is not a solo effort. Now, I want to show you my desktop here. Here's my desktop. Here is a Shanzhishu, Kalyana Mitra. This is Earth Treasury Bodhisattva. I can't make it bigger. It's on my desktop. I can't expand it, otherwise I would. This is a beautiful painting a Korean painting of Earth-store Bodhisattva. And how do we relate to him in the sutra that bears his name? The sutra, the fundamental vows of Earth Treasury Bodhisattva. And in that sutra, we get a very clear picture of this bodhisattva because the sutra's opening chapter talks about how Earth-store Bodhisattva came into being. He wasn't this male figure dressed in monk's robes when he began. Who was he when he began? He's a woman. There are three particular backstories of Earth-store Bodhisattva. In one case, he was a cultivator who made vows with a companion, kind of battle of the vows. But in two of the histories, two of the life stories, Earth-store Bodhisattva was a filial daughter. That is to say, a daughter who, when her mother passed away, she was so concerned about her mother's well-being that she pursued knowledge of her mother after death, beyond the grave. And in order to get that knowledge, she went to, one is a Pratyeka Buddha and one is a Buddha. And through a process of making offerings and committing wealth and time and attention and focus and heart to the pursuit of that knowledge, the Buddha and the Pratyeka Buddha were able to fulfill that request. And in the process of the cultivation to get that knowledge, in one case, a woman named Guangmu Nu, bright eyes, the lady with bright eyes, and the other is the Brahman woman, that's how we know her. She created enough goodness and then dedicated it to her mother that the mother's existential situation changed. She was able to save her mother. Now, the story is a lot like Ullambana story, interestingly, and that's one of the crossovers between Earth-store Bodhisattva and the Mahamadhyayana, whose name we said earlier on today. And the sutra goes on. We learn throughout the focus of this sutra how Earth-store Bodhisattva works, what goodness comes from Earth-store Bodhisattva, etc. So definitely we can take Earth-store Bodhisattva as our Kalyana Mitra. Here is a mentor, and the standards, the expectations, and the rewards are laid out in the sutra really, really clearly. It's fairly brief. I know people who recite Earth-store Sutra every single day. They make it part of their practice every day. It's a process. There are 3 scrolls, San Quan, they say, in the Earth-store Sutra, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And to recite it, in Chinese, if you go, 如是我闻你是佛在道理天语母说法, at that speed, you can do it in about 2 hours, the 3. If you go faster, of course, you can do it faster. In English, it takes longer. Our English translation is, my jaw always feels tired after reciting the Earth-store Sutra in English because it's kind of chewy. And it takes longer to say all the words and get it all out. So, and English is inflected, it's not monosyllabic. And so, it's a longer process. But I know people who still do it every day. And that's not one of my practices currently, but I have recited it enough to know how wonderful is the Earth-store Bodhisattva Sutra. It's coming up. It's in the autumn when we observe Earth-store Dharmas, and you'll hear more about it as we progress into the year now, September, October time. So there's an example of a Shanzhishi, Kalyana Mitra. Pick up that Earth-store Bodhisattva Sutra and recite it, and oh my goodness, you learn a lot. Okay, says says our teacher, disregard the well-being of your body and life. Now, this, you can go wrong here. It doesn't mean tune out pain and just break through. That's not a long-term solution. And you can even injure yourself. There are people who say, oh, disregard the well-being. I'm just going to, never put on sunscreen. I'm going to, 120 degrees in Phoenix, I'm going to go out and do a 3 steps, 1 bow out on the roadside. No, you don't do that. You have to use common sense. You have to use wisdom in the middle way. But the problem, this how I interpret this, disregard the well-being of your body and life. We, for example, people who eat the ordinary American, Australian diet have already disregarded the well-being of body and life. That's to say, our standards are warped by which we judge well-being. If we eat processed food exclusively, we will put ourselves in a situation of diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, many of the illnesses that affect people who eat processed food as a diet will simply, to follow Master Hai Yun's advice, just eat more organic, natural food that was in the ground sooner or on the tree sooner. Morgan Spurlock, who just passed away recently, the guy who made the film Super Size Me, you remember him? He sadly passed away not long ago. But Morgan Spurlock, in order to make a point about processed food, made a vow that he would eat only McDonald's, including water from McDonald's. Nothing would enter his mouth but food that he had got from McDonald's for an entire month. And he documented every day and went to get regular medical checkups in the process of that month. In that month, he gained something like 15 pounds. His blood pressure went up way past safety. His cholesterol tripled. And the doctor said 3 weeks into it, I strongly advise you to stop. He said, you are on a path of where you might do permanent damage to your organs. And so there was one wonderful documented moment in the film when Morgan went out. He went to burgers. He went to a mom and pop hamburger shop where they actually got the ground the beef up and made a hamburger, and it was a really juicy hamburger with the fixings on it. And also he also got fries. He got French fries, which in Australia are called chips. Okay, so he got chips, he got fries. And then he took the mom and pop hamburger and the French fries and he put them under a glass casserole cover. All right. Then he went to McDonald's and got a Big Mac and he got some fries and he put them under it. And then he went to a Burger King. He got 4 different kinds. 3 of them were from chain burgers, chain restaurants. One of them was homemade from a local diner. Okay, he put them under glass casserole covers so you could see what would happen. And then he came back over the month and photographed what happened to the French fries and the burger. And in the first 3 days, the mom and pop, the actual organic meat and potatoes it started to mold, and it just this liquid juice flowed out of it. And he came back and he photographed, and the casserole cover was full of condensation. It was real food, and it decayed predictably quickly. And so he came back in a week, and the homemade mom and pop restaurant hamburger was just alive with just mold and growth, just this tall. It was just like, yuck, it looked awful. And he went down the line. The McDonald's hamburger and French fries were unchanged. They looked just the way they did when it was handed to him, when he bought it. Nothing organic in the big restaurant chain, the fast food chain food. It wasn't edible. And he came back at the end of the month and the French fries were unchanged. They were identical. So everybody's going, now when I put that in my stomach, what happens to it? So anyway, that was Morgansboro. And my point is to say that when we eat food that has been processed, which is, if you go into an average grocery store and just buy the name brands, you're already putting food into your body that is pretty much documented to be unhealthy. It's not healthy food. So you're a health food fanatic, right? What are you? You're an unhealth food eater? Sadly. So here's my point. We have, judging by the standard, how do we measure the well-being of our body and life? Can we look at the food that we eat based on the 5 contemplations that monks and nuns recite every day? This offering of the faithful is the fruit of work and care. I reflect upon my conduct. Have I earned my share? Of the poisons of the mind, the most obstructing, the most harmful one is greed. As a medicine cures illness, I take only what I need to sustain my cultivation, to realize the way. So we contemplate with gratitude in this offering today. So if I look at the food that I'm going to eat as medicine, that changes a whole lot of the choices that I will make, how I nourish my body today. Okay, can we say just enough? Appreciate sufficiency. 够了，居足常乐，能忍自安. If we can know when we have enough, and we don't have to load up sugar, we don't have to load up salsa, hot sauce, we don't have to overeat, just leave, Shifu would say, eat 80% full, leave room for digestion, then we are not tuning out pain, but we are actually looking at the actual well-being of our body and life. We can do that with all things. We're closer to the bodhi resolve. We are taking living beings across. We are looking long. Buddhahood is our value. That's what we want. That's within our grasp. We can become Buddhas, but we have to cultivate to get there. So, next one. Don't conceal or hoard possessions. Don't accumulate more stuff than we need. That's a lifelong lesson. It's not once and done. You have to do it all the time, adjusting. Stick to the middle way and understand that, can I live simply so that other people can simply live? Okay, this one I like. Make your mind flat like the ground without highs or lows. What does this mean? We're looking at Buddhist code, right? Does it mean that life loses its joy? It's not what it means. The Chinese is, what is the Chinese for this? Let's see here. The Chinese says, 等心如地，无有高下. Impartial. Make your mind without highs and lows, like the ground. So what is the ground like? I have another whole translation of this, which is, what does the ground do? It grows everything that you put, every seed you put in the ground will grow equally. So choose wisely. Let's, with that in mind, and then it says no highs, no lows. So here we go. let's say, plant, let's see, how should we say this? 等心如地. Keep your mind impartial. Is that keep your, let's see, choose wisely, choose what you, choose, here we go, choose the seeds you plant down, because your mind will grow those seeds impartially. There we are. Right? That's really what it says. Be careful what seeds you plant, because they're going to grow. Our minds are fertile. And if we hang out, Shifu would say, 金吃着红，金墨着黑. If you draw near rouge, you get red. If you draw near ink, you turn the color of the ink, black, blue, whatever. So make your mind flat like the ground. No, that's not the way. That's not the right translation. So avoid getting in a funk, because it's easy these days. It's easy to feel eco-depression. There's a technical name for that. It's not ecocide, it's ecological anxiety, is that what they call it? So there are folks who are saying that the low birth rate that countries are experiencing is because Gen Z is looking ahead and thinking, no, don't want to raise kids into that. South Korea is currently 0.8% per woman reproducing rate. In order to keep a population stable, you need 2.1. So for a country to sustain itself without dropping their population growth, every person of childbearing age should grow 2.1 children, they say. Korea is 0.8. So that has huge, huge implications for the future. Taiwan the same, Japan the same, and now US the same. US is something like 1.7 now, something like that. Check that. I shouldn't quote that. I don't know if that's true. But I do know about the Korean, because I was listening to a discussion of it the other day. So what if young people are saying, there's no future, that we are reading the projections, and the earth is in trouble. So I'm not going to bring children into a world where my parents left us a bare cupboard. Our parents raped the wealth of the earth, sucked the blood of the earth, its oil, dry, and burned it. And that's why greenhouse gases are turning the earth into an unlivable place. Phoenix has been 120 degrees recently, and that is fatal if you are exposed to that over time. Just last month in Ukiah, California, city of 10,000 Buddhas, we had 42 degrees for a week, 109. So yeah, we did that, my generation, and young people, I wouldn't blame them to feel like, nope, nothing for us. So don't bring a child into the world. The sutra here is saying, can we hold the torch without extinguishing it, right? The torch is, we have to pass the torch. Humanity is the next generation is going to inherit the earth. So can we work together to make it a place that will sustain life? Good question. What would the Buddha say? Your nature always feels empathy and pity for beings. You empathize with others' pain. That's certainly essential for the bodhi resolve. Tong ti, da bei, same body, great compassion. With concentration and mindfulness, never forsake beings in the paths of existence. Okay, what is that? Buddhist jargon, but it sure sounds like the Bodhisattva path, doesn't it? With concentration and mindfulness, never forsake beings. So, meditate, use wisdom, and tune in to the non-humans. That's what I get out of that. I don't know how you hear that one. Beings in the paths of existence. What are the paths of existence? 3 on the low side, 3 on the high side. The low side, hells, animals, ghosts. We're going to hear about those in a minute. High side, humans, asuras, devas, they say, called the 6 paths. Liu Dao Lun Wei, the 6 paths of rebirth. So, who do we relate to? Animals, we can see animals, birds, fish, insects. Some people see ghosts. We relate to devas. God on high, Lord God is a deva. Krishna, Vishnu, Shiva, Rama, those are beings in other realms. And how do we relate to them? Well, we relate to them. We pray to them, for example. Dear God. So that's on the high side. What about ancestors? Do we ever think of our grandparents as ghosts? Probably not. But where are they? Here's the Brahma woman, knowing that her mother's no longer in her body, she's now in another realm, but she didn't forget her. Because, why? When we think of ancestors, who is that? What are we thinking of? We're thinking of their bodies, but you know that your grandmother's kindness that was so precious in our lives, that came from an invisible part of your grandmother, her soul, her Buddha nature, her spirit, her mind, her heart. Not the physical heart, but the invisible heart. Where did that go? Where is that? Did it die? That would be sad, wouldn't it? What's the point if you thought it died? No, it didn't. So that's something that we still relate to. How do we do it? With concentration and mindfulness. Don't let go of our relationship with the non-humans in our lives. Now, I'm here in Australia, and I am very much aware of the lives of feathered creatures and furry creatures, because I live here just down the road from where I'm sitting at the moment, what's called the hinterland of the Gold Coast. And Australia is delightful in that it has this least population density of any first world country. There's more room around every individual. So here, the critters haven't seen that many humans. So they're not afraid of us. Maybe they should be. They're not afraid of us as in other countries. In Berkeley, California, the only critters that I see are crows, seagulls, and if you're up at the right time, raccoons. Other than squirrels, a lot of squirrels. Other than that, there's just, it's an intense urban world, so we push the critters out. But that very same Berkeley, California, just a century ago, had grizzly bears and salmon. Salmon in Strawberry Creek, which runs right through the UC Berkeley campus. The golden bears, go bears, golden bears of UC Berkeley, grizzly bears. They were right there in the same, but we pushed them out. Here in Australia, we haven't pushed them out yet. So, for me, I relate to this one. Never forsake beings in the paths of existence. I'm out there reciting the names of the 7 Tathagatas to kookaburras pretty much every day. Namo Do Bao Rulai. And they go, oh, 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 oh. So, yeah. So, here, what is it? Relationships. again, what does it mean, don't forsake beings? It means keep those fellow living beings who are here in the world with us in our hearts. Don't forget them. Act as if we're all related, and our lives will be enriched. And we will feel like every deed we do, we dedicate merit, transfer merit, it goes out. It connects to those beings. And I would propose, can't prove it, this is not a scientific observation, but if we could see, if we had our wisdom open, I think we would see that every square inch of empty space is chock full of beings. We just went, Namo Da Fang Guang Fo Huai. We were, please, inviting Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, spiritual Dharma protectors, to come. And when Master Hua would lecture sutras at Gold Mountain Monastery, you could feel it. The air was thick. Every now and then, Shifu would say, "Oh, wow, Shancai Tongzi lai le. Ta在那儿听了. Sudana has come," Shifu would say. Sudana is here. The Sudana that we're reading about. And then, I remember one night at Gold Mountain, Shifu said, Sun Wukong 就来了. Wow, 这么调皮. 他说, 你坐下. 他说, 你听话. Shifu says, the monkey king from Journey to the West is here. And then Shifu would tell him, don't eat, sit still, obey. Because Sun Wukong is notoriously naughty, right? Is Shifu speaking metaphorically or no, he's seeing things that we don't see. All right, last one. Constantly delight in contemplating the thus come one states. Enjoy thinking about the Buddhas. In order to do that, we have to know what Buddhas are like. Well, how do we do that? We read sutras. We listen to texts. We read Dharma talks of other monks and nuns who can see them. So, constantly delight, contemplate this. What would it be like? Imagine to be that kind so that we don't get angry. We always have another answer that is not force. Because I said so. Do it because I told you. If I have to come upstairs, you're in trouble. Being a parent, boy, how hard it must be. But if you were a Buddha, you'd always have a way to motivate people that doesn't involve force. Yeah. So, says Ha Yun Bicho, these are the ways you can express the Bodhi resolve. How wonderful. It takes a little bit of decoding, because boy, oh boy, this one, the radiance that comes from good roots cultivated through the universal door. Yep, let's get to work. Let's make sense of that. Okay, what's coming next? There's the next section. We'll do it next week. But Hayun Bichu says, what I mean when I say Fa Pu Ti Xin, make the Bodhi resolve, this is what happens. You bring forth 11 thoughts. Next week we're going to go do all 11 thoughts that show the Bodhi resolve. When you do it, this is what happens. Okay, here we go. Now, ullambana, switching, moving over to the second part of our program today. For the sake of the Chinese-speaking audience, I couldn't think of a way to put the two texts side by side. So I'm going to read the Chinese Ullambana Sutra. It's very short. We've already done it here ritualistically. We've done it in the ceremony here. Probably Berkeley will do it next week, I understand. So here we go. I'll just read it quickly, and then what I want to do, the English text is a product of our earliest translation efforts back in the 80s. It is hard to connect some of the language with people's understanding. this particular text is so powerful that there are teachings in it that should immediately make sense to people worldwide. It's filiality, it's kindness, and the Buddha's kindness to Madhyayana, and then Madhyayana's bodhi resolve, his unselfishness, connect. But in the process of translating it, I think we've given the words in the Buddha's mouth that seem like the Buddha can't speak English. And I disagree. I think the Buddha speaks excellent English. So we have retranslated it. And I want people to hear a new version without the jargon, a decoded Ullambana Sutra. Okay, here we go. 佛说乌楞汉经，问如是：一是佛在舍卫国，其数即古独远，大目犍连，使得六通，欲度父母，报乳母之恩。即以道眼观视世间，见其亡母生恶鬼中，不见饮食，皮骨连立，目连悲哀，其以薄盛饭，忘死其母。母的薄饭，即以左手杖钵，右手团食，使未入口，化成火炭，虽不得食。目连大叫，背号涕泣，赤唤白佛，俱成如此。佛言：汝母罪根深结，非汝一人力所奈何。汝虽孝顺，生动天地，天生地势，邪魔外道，道是四天王身，亦不能奈何。当须十方众生，为神之力，乃得解脱。吾今当说救济之法，令一切难解离有苦。佛告目连：十方众生，7月15日生子次日，当为七世父母及现在父母为难之中者，具饭百味五果，祭冠盆器，香有定珠，床覆卧具，尽是甘美，移进盆中，供养十方大德众生。当次之日，一切圣众，或在山间禅定，或得四道果，或在树下精行，或六通自在教化声闻缘觉，或十地菩萨大人，观自比丘，劝献比丘，在大众中皆同一心，受钵诃罗饭。具清净界圣众之道，其得亡羊，其有供养此等自是生者，现世父母六亲眷属，得诸三途之苦，应是解脱，亦是自然。若父母现在者，福乐百年；若其世父母升天，自在化生，入天华光。十佛赐十方众生，皆现为施主家咒愿。愿七世父母行禅定意，然后受食。出世吃食，先按在佛前，他寺中佛前，众生咒愿尽，便自受食。是目连比丘及大菩萨众皆大欢喜，目连悲鼓泣声，释然出灭。是目连母即于是日，得脱一劫恶鬼之苦。目连复拜佛言：弟子所生母，得蒙三宝功德之力，众生为神力故。若未来世，一切佛弟子，以应风雨轮盘，救度现世父母乃至七世父母，可为而否？佛言：大善快问！我正要说。如今复问善男子：若比丘、比丘尼、国王、太子、大臣、宰相、三公、百官、万民庶人行此善恶者，皆应先为所生父母。I'm sorry, a little too fast here. 皆因先为所生现在父母，过去7世父母，于7日15日佛欢喜日生子次日，以100位是饮饭食，安于冷盘中，是十方自此生，愿是现在父母寿命100年无病，无一切苦恼之患，乃至7世父母离恶鬼苦，生人天中福乐无尽。是佛弟子修孝顺者，应念中常忆父母，乃至7世父母，念7月15日常忆孝慈，忆所生父母，为作ullambana，施佛及僧，以报父母长养滋养之恩。若一切佛弟子应唱风持是法，是无量比丘4辈弟子欢喜风行。Okay, wow, I've butchered that with bad Chinese. Let's try better with English. Sutra of the Buddha's teaching on ullambana. Thus have I heard. Once the Buddha lived at Sravasti in the garden of the benefactor of orphans and the childless elderly. Mahamadhyayana just revealed the 6 spiritual powers and wished to take across his father and mother to repay their kindness for raising him. Just then, using a spiritual vision, he contemplated the world and saw his deceased mother had been reborn among the hungry ghosts. Having neither food nor drink, she'd become a skeleton, covered with skin. Madhyayana, feeling deep pity and sadness, filled a bowl with food and endeavored to give it to his mother. But after she got the bowl, she screened it with her left hand, and with her right hand made a fistful of food. Before the food entered her mouth, it turned into burning coals and burned her mouth and tongue. Mahamadhyayana, crying aloud and weeping sorrowfully, ran to the Buddha to tell him what had happened. The Buddha said, "Your mother's created weighty offenses. Her habits are strongly rooted. You alone don't have enough strength to affect the situation. Although your filial cries move heaven and earth, the celestial and terrestrial spirits, demons, heterodox believers, Brahmins, and the 4 Deva kings also lack strength to help. It will take the awe-inspiring spiritual power of the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions to set her free. I'm going to teach you a method now which can lead beings with troubles and worries to leave their misery behind." The Buddha told Madhyayana, 15th day of the 7th month is the Pravarana day for the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions. Prepare an offering of clean basins full of flavorful foods and ripe fruits. Make offerings of incense, oil, lamps, candles, beds, and bedding, all the finest quality, to the virtuous Sangha of the 10 directions who gathered, and do so for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 generations past, as well as for fathers and mothers of the present who are in trouble. On that day, gather the Sangha of sages, whether they're in the mountains practicing Chan meditation, or realizing the 4 fruitions of the path, or walking beneath trees, or using the sovereign self-mastery of the 6 psychic powers to teach hearers and Pracheka Buddhas. Whether they're 10-stage bodhisattvas appearing as bhikshus, all of these sages alike, in their single-minded focus and complete with pure precepts and ocean-vast virtue, should gather in a great assembly to receive the Pravarana food. If you then make offerings to the Pravarana Sangha, your present mother and father, your parents of 7 generations past, as well as 6 kinds of close relatives, will leave the 3 paths of suffering, gain liberation, and be clothed and fed. If your parents are still alive, they will enjoy happiness and blessings for 100 years. Parents of 7 generations past will be reborn in the heavens with sovereign self-mastery, experiencing celestial flowers and radiance and limitless happiness. At that time, the Buddha instructed the assembled Sangha of the 10 directions to recite mantras and dedications for the sake of the donors' families. Then, for parents of 7 generations, with minds as still as in Chan meditation, they may accept the food. When they receive the offerings of food, they first set it in front of the Buddha in the stupa. When the assembled Sangha has all gathered, they recite their mantras and make dedications. Only then can they eat the food. At that time, Bhikshu Madhyayana and the assembly of great bodhisattvas were all extremely delighted, and the sound of Madhyayana's sorrowful cries ceased. Then Madhyayana's mother was set free from 1 eon of suffering as a hungry ghost. Madhyayana said to the Buddha, This disciple's parents have received the power of the triple jewels, merit and virtue, and the awe-inspiring spiritual strength of the assembled Sangha. In the future, if Buddha's disciples practice filiality by offering the ullambana food basins, will they also be able to take across their present fathers and mothers, as well as those of 7 generations past? The Buddha replied, excellent. I'm happy you asked that question. I was just going to explain the principle. Good people, suppose bhikshus, bhikshunis, kings, crown princes, lofty ministers, officials, cabinet members, the 100 chiefs, tens of thousands of citizens wish to practice compassionate filial conduct for the sake of the parents who bore them, as well as for the sake of fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. On the 15th day of the 7th lunar month, on the day of the Buddha's delight, the day of the Sangha's pravarana, they should place hundreds of flavors of foods in the ullambana basins, offer them to the pravarana Sangha of the 10 directions. They should vow their present fathers and mothers' longevity will reach 100 years without illness, without sufferings, afflictions, or worries. They should also vow that 7 generations of fathers and mothers will leave the sufferings of the hungry ghosts, be born among humans and gods, and enjoy limitless blessings and happiness. The Buddha told the good men and women, these disciples of the Buddha who cultivate filial practices when making offerings in thought after thought should constantly recall their present fathers and mothers, as well as the fathers and mothers of 7 lives past. For their sakes, they should perform the offering of the ullambana basins to the Buddha and the Sangha, and thus repay the loving kindness of the parents who raised and nourished them. At that time, Bhikshu Madhyayana and the Fourfold Assembly of disciples, hearing what the Buddha had said, practiced it with delight. End of the Sutra of the Buddha's teaching on ullambana. Okay, what do you think? It's like, that reads well. That's what the Buddha said. How about that? All right. So this is that time of the year when we recite this. And what is it? This is a Buddhist story. This is our legend that you can't say it's a legend, it's historical. Madhyayana was a real person. And over the years, as we recite this, we did it here today, and then we recite the mantra, Namo Milido Dopoye Soha. There are teachings contained in that sutra that resonate today. Filiality is really clear. This idea of connecting with your parents. The sutra says 7 generations past. Talk about Bhikshu Ocean Cloud, who says, be through samadhi and wisdom, be mindful of beings and other destinies. Yeah. Our parents, do I remember who was my mother 7 generations back? No, I don't, but I guarantee I was one. I had one. I was their child, her child. Madhyayana just woke up in the sutra. He's enlightened now. He looks for his mother first. That's his priority. That's a different set of values, isn't it? He wants to repay her kindness for giving him the opportunity to cultivate. Another one, benefits of offering the Sangha. The method that the Buddha teaches, he says, I can't do it. I can't help you by myself. Really? Of course he could. He's devising methods to sustain the life of the Sangha in the future. He says, make offerings to the Sangha. They will bring blessings and salvation. The method, the mechanism by which this happens is lay people make offerings. The Sangha recites mantras and sutras and dedicates the merit. That's how it works. And sure enough, it's a historical account of how this works. Madhyayana is unselfish. He gets benefit. His mom is rescued, and his next thought is, it worked for me, will it work for everyone? And the Buddha goes, way to go. You beat me to it. I was going to mention that, but you have the Bodhisattva's heart. Right? So, Buddha's expedients are on display in the Ullambana Sutra. Here's another one. Even mothers can fall. We always think of mom as saintly, unless she's not. But who would think that your mom is in the hells as a ghost? That's like gulp. So Madhyayana, he was a saint, he was a sage, but his mother was something else. Her karma lost her human body and put her in the body of a ghost living in the hells. The sutra describes it really graphically. She hides the food that her son gives her from the other ghosts, puts it in her mouth, and it turns into flaming coals. Another teaching, the power of community. Together we can. The Buddha, by teaching it this way, is making preparation for the sustaining of the Sangha into the future. What else? The story appears throughout Asia. Videos, movies, manga, anime, opera. Wonderful story, because why? We love to think that our mom and dad might be saved through our efforts. That story motivates people. Clarity on psychic powers. Madhyayana can take food down to the hells to feed his mother, but he sure can't save her. Clarity on ghosts. Reality. Ghosts exist in the hells today. Are we relating to them? Are we trying to help them? Harmony in the Sangha. It's the Pravarana day. That is always talking about Fo Huan Shi Ri. That is to say that the rains retreat is over. This is the last chance for lay people to get all the Sangha together. They're about to scatter and go out to the 10 directions. 6 directions. So, Sangha harmony. Now, this is really key. The Buddha, as a religious authority, says, I can't do it, but I'll tell you how you can. That's so interesting. He steps down from his omniscient place to show the benefits of the Sangha working together. What about reincarnation? That's the main theme in the Ullambana Sutra, that past deeds give you present reality, present deeds give you future reality. The efficacy of the transference of merit. It works because the Sangha, after reciting sutras and mantras, dedicate to merit. So this is Mahayana Dharma. Tomorrow, at the same time, I will be explaining the 10 transferences chapter. Go to CTTB Online YouTube channel, and you can tune in. I don't know, yeah. So it's available on Zoom for folks who can't do YouTube. The impartial scope of karma comes for mom. And good karma as well. Then this one is not evident. This is what happened in China when the Buddhist legend got turned into Zhongyuanjie, Guijie, the ghost month. There's this in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, in China, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Philippines, in Vietnam. People are afraid of ghosts. Wherever Chinese culture goes out, there's this relationship to Gui. It's just the worst thing. And so what was a celebration of filiality became this, it got adapted into Chinese culture as a time to stay home on the 7th month, 15th day, 7th lunar month, because the ghosts are out. So monks like Master Jinming in Malaysia wanted to save ullambana from the distortion of Chinese culture. Indian culture sees laity as passive blessings seekers. They just make offerings because they want blessings. What the Ullambana Sutra does is it says you can engineer the well-being of your relatives if you use the Dharma. Cultivate offerings to the Sangha, encourage them to recite sutras, dedicate merit. Your relatives get saved. Get involved. Get in there and take part in planting fields of blessings. So, as we establish the Dharma in the West, now and integrate Asian religious perspectives in Western culture, we should understand that there are what happened in popular culture to our Buddhist story needs to be adjusted. Okay, how does it work? I want to share an interesting story right here. I just saw this in the news today that our Dharma brother, Master Minghai, went to Japan invited by the Hanzong in Japan, and he represented the Chinese Buddhist Association and the Chinese Buddhist Academy. He is the Fu Xiaozhang. He's the vice chancellor of principal of the Buddhist Study Academy. He led a delegation to Japan to attend the 2024 Obon Festival in Japan, Japan's second largest event during the year, Buddhist-inspired, but organized by the Hanzong. And what did he do? He used the light of Dharma and the sail of wisdom to remember sages of the past and discuss the future. It became the Lantern Festival in Japan, Obon, and the original roots of filiality were forgotten. So Minghai Fa Shi says, the Ullambana festival began as an important day in Buddhism to repay the kindness of ancestors. So he went with, in 98, Zhao Buchu, Zhao Huizhang was president, and he connected with the Japanese Hanzong, the Agama school, and created a Japan Buddhist Friendship Forest at Badachu. And Master Minghai this year went to continue it. He says this friendship has passed through the generations, never been interrupted, and they want to, let's see here, they exchanged greetings, and let's see here it is. So Master Minghai explained that the Ullambana festival was introduced in Japan during the Asuka period, and it merged with Japanese cultural traditions of ancestor worship. The Ullambana festival is a grand festival, second only to New Year's Day, representing xiaoshun, gratitude to ancestors, filial respect, family reunion. So here is the story. 中国佛教代表团赴日出席汉宗乌兰盘活动. Here's the translation. Here is Master Minghai. We get to see him in action here. In Japan, don't know if I can make that any bigger. Try it here, let's see here. No, the picture's that big. Here he is in the Japanese temple at the invitation of the Hanzong. So powerful, here is the delegation being received, that this is continuing. And what I want to point out is, here is Minghai Fa Shi teaching the Japanese about the roots of Obon Matsuri, which is a lantern festival, and it's a dance in Japan. Everybody puts on clothes and they dance. They have forgotten the roots as a Buddhist story about Madhyayana saving his mother. Now, Master Minghai is very much into the Ullambana Dharma. When he invited myself and Dharma Master Jinchuan to go to Bailin Monastery in Shijiazhuang years ago for the summer camp that he holds every year, the theme was about Fumu'en, remembering our parents and repaying their kindness. So he's now spreading that teaching to Japan. Here it is. Make this. Here it is. Here he is. Here's the delegation and the Japanese receiving it. Look at the altar. Remarkable, beautiful Japanese monastery. So, just to say, Ullambana continues, and I hope that people in the West can get inspired by this idea of keeping the relationships going and repaying the kindness of parents. Okay, let's see here. If I click on that link, I see Jinwei Shi is there, and maybe Jin Chuan. Hey,
It's
Dharma.
me. Hello,
Hi.
Dharma Master. How everyone? It's Jinwei here in Berkeley, and can make a few announcements. So the first one is telling us that pretty soon we're starting a fall semester. So this is a Stephen Taylor class, September 18th. He will start through Zoom still, but you can see that is very interesting topic for this semester, right livelihood in the 21st century. It'll be definitely very interesting, and always his teaching is very applicable for our everyday lives, and many people are very benefit from and following him for decades. And so we're very happy that Stephen starting again his teaching. But before that is the next event. That's the master you just mentioned about importance of ullambana ceremony, and of course, in Berkeley Monastery we celebrate this important event every year. In fact, tomorrow is in City of 10,000 Buddhas. So those of you who can join in Ukiah, definitely is a good opportunity. And if not, and you are in the Bay Area, next Saturday, August 24th, we will do ullambana ceremony already. We have a table set it up in our Buddha hall, and we're starting in the morning, 9 a.m., and we'll recite the Sutra, we'll chant the mantra, we have some reflection, and we have also a lunch for everyone. So highly recommend to join. And we go. So this is again Saturday, August 24th at Berkeley Buddhist Monastery.
Okay, that's the 25th here in Australia. Sunday the 25th, yeah.
And it's important to say that also it will be on Zoom, online, and YouTube transmission. So you can still join us if you wish, and you are from different places. And if we can, I haven't give you update. We need to take out this from the website. Although interfaith blood drive is done, and we are very happy from results. Strongly different communities comes together: Jewish, Muslim, Christian, and Vedanta, and we collected altogether 38 units of blood, which it's. In other words, it's like 140 lives, we can say, could be saved from this effort. And definitely our presence and our volunteers, very good job. We have the youngest, I think, group, and very enthusiastic, energetic, and it was very lovely moments that we can, in harmony, all together in peace, do something what is very wholesome.
Nice.
So maybe in this way you can encourage everyone. You don't have to wait 1 year to do donation. You just click, your local Red Cross, and you can easily find an appointment. Is it US or any other countries? Like here, statistics is showing that that blood is needed every 2 seconds. Every 2 seconds. So it's really this really matters that this you can say small offering, but make a huge difference for those who receive that.
Indeed. Okay, thank you for that. That's really inspiring. We have just in Robina, our local village, we've got the site for blood donation here in Australia. So, yeah. Okay, Thank you so much, Jinwei Shi.
Thank you, Dharma Master. I want to remind everyone, you mentioned that tomorrow also would be your lecture at the City of 10,000 Buddhas YouTube channel.
Yes.
10 transference, as well as a Friday lecture on Master Xu Yun biography. Yeah. Right. So it's 6:30 to 7:30 Pacific time.
7:30 to 9, right? So here's, if people want to know how to tune in to my lecture tomorrow, here's the place, right here, Berkeley Monastery.
Exactly. Please just click and you go directly there.
Yep. Alrighty. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you.
News. Yep. We just did our Amitofo. We did our ullambana here today, so that's we won't be announcing that one here, but we will dedicate merit, and here's how we do it. So please make a wish, however you would care to dedicate your merit. We'll shrink that down a bit. There we go. Okay, here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. One more time. May all become compassionate and wise. And before we go, we can bow to the Buddhas and to our teacher. Welcome to join me. Here we go. Third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Alrighty, that does it for us for today. We'll see you all next week. Amitofo. Bye now.